All right, today we are diving into the absolutely essential work of marketing legend David Aaker. His book, Building Strong Brands, was a total game changer. It basically shifted the entire conversation from short-term tactics to long-term strategy, and it gave us a blueprint for creating brands that don't just sell products, but actually last.
It's the question every single business leader asks themselves at some point. Why do brands like Harley-Davidson or Nike inspire this almost fanatical loyalty, while so many others just fizzle out and disappear? Is it all just luck, or is there a system behind it? Well, that is exactly what we are going to unpack.
Look, building a strong brand is incredibly difficult. Why? Because you're basically fighting a war on multiple fronts at the same time. Aaker laid out these 8 key pressures you see here that are constantly working against you. Everything from the constant push to compete on price, to pressures inside your own company that fight against real innovation, and of course that relentless demand for short-term results. It is an absolute minefield. So to help us navigate this minefield, here's our game plan. First, we're going to explore what we're calling the branding battlefield. Then, we'll expose a super common mistake known as the brand image trap. After that, we'll get into the good stuff, Aaker's powerful identity system. We'll break it down into 4 key perspectives, and finally we'll see how it all comes together to help you find a brand's true soul.
Okay, first up, the branding battlefield. Let's really get a feel for this high-stakes environment where brands are pretty much forced to live or die.
Aaker really saw these 8 pressures as a kind of perfect storm. On the outside, you've got way more competitors than ever before, and markets and media are splintering into a million pieces. But then, internally, you've got this immense pressure for short-term profits, a built-in bias against taking big, innovative swings, and a constant temptation to invest in, well, anything but the long-term health of the brand. In an environment like this, only the most strategic brands have a prayer of surviving.
So when you're faced with this battlefield, it's really easy to make a critical error. And this brings us to what Aaker calls the single most common mistake in all of branding, the brand image trap. So what exactly is this trap? Well, it's when you become purely reactive. You're constantly looking at how customers see you right now and letting that dictate your strategy. It's all tactics, no vision. Aaker had a great analogy for this. It's like letting the audience write the script for a play while the actors are still on stage. You completely lose control of your own story.
And this slide right here really lays out the crucial difference. Brand image, on the left, is just a reflection in the rearview mirror. It's how you are perceived, and it's totally rooted in the past. But brand identity, that's the blueprint. That's a strategic vision for how you want to be perceived, something you actively build for the future.
Aaker himself just drives this point home so perfectly. A brand identity isn't some fluffy marketing exercise. It should be a core business strategy. And I love this part. He says it requires an obsession with winning. That is the huge mindset shift you need to make to escape the trap.
Okay, so if the brand image trap is the problem, what's the solution? This brings us to the hero of our story, Aaker's brand identity system. And there it is, the master plan. This model is a framework for building a rich, textured, multi-layered identity. It forces you to think way beyond just your product. You have to consider the entire brand, its values, its personality, its symbols. It's all about being proactive and really deliberate in who you want to be.
Now, Aaker uses this brilliant analogy that I just love. He says a brand identity is like an artichoke. On the outside, you've got all the leaves. That's the extended identity. These are all the elements that add texture and detail. But as you peel back those layers, you eventually get to the core identity, the timeless, non-negotiable heart of the brand.
This core identity, this gets to the absolute essence of your brand. We're not talking about a product feature or some temporary ad campaign. This answers the really fundamental questions. What is our soul? What are the beliefs that drive us? And what do we, as an organization, truly stand for?
So how do we actually go about defining that soul? Well, this is where Aaker gives us an amazing toolkit with 4 distinct perspectives. You can think of them as lenses to view our brand through.
And those 4 perspectives are brand as product, brand as organization, brand as person, and brand as symbol. The magic happens when you use all of them together, because that's how you create an identity that's rich, multidimensional, and a heck of a lot harder for anyone else to copy.
First up is brand as product. This is probably the most foundational layer, focused squarely on what you sell. The classic example here is Volvo. For decades, their entire identity has been built around one single product attribute: safety. It's an incredibly powerful and direct association.
Next, we go a level deeper with brand as organization. Now we're looking at the company behind the product. A great example is The Body Shop. Their brand isn't just about selling lotion, it's about their corporate values, like their famous and long-standing fight against animal testing. Now that is a powerful differentiator. Okay, the third perspective is brand as person. And this is where a brand can really come alive. It's all about giving it human personality traits. I mean, Harley-Davidson doesn't just sell a machine, right? They sell an identity, a personality that is rugged, rebellious, and completely obsessed with freedom.
And finally, we have brand as symbol. A great symbol is like a mental shortcut that takes you straight to the entire brand identity. It gives you instant recognition and ties the whole story together. The Nike swoosh doesn't need a single word. It instantly communicates an entire universe of performance and winning. So now for our final section, let's see how these four perspectives combine to create a coherent brand that has a real, identifiable soul.
Aaker used the old car company Saturn as a perfect example of this whole system in action. Their core identity was built around quality and truly respecting the customer. And this was then supported by a friendly personality, that famous slogan, a different kind of company, and a no-haggle sales experience. You see how every single piece reinforced that core idea?
So, if there's one key takeaway, it's this. Iconic brands are not built by chance. They are the result of intense strategic discipline. And it all starts by proactively defining who are we, instead of just reactively asking, so how do people see us right now?
And we'll leave you with this final thought from Aaker himself. He says the ultimate goal of this entire system is to define and then express a brand's soul, because that soul is what gives it character, meaning, and ultimately, enduring strength.
And that brings us to a final question for you to think about. Pick a brand you're truly loyal to. Using this framework we just talked about, what would you say is its soul? It's a really fascinating exercise, and it shows you just how powerful a clear brand identity can be.